Brett, very nice to be here speaking with you.
Great to be here.
Fantastic.
In my home city, no less, in Bangkok.
So I was told.
Yeah, I've
and-
moved here a few years ago. I've been living here full time since last year.
Fantastic. So what do you make of the fintech scene in Asia now, 2024? We've heard of the fintech winter in the last 24 months or so. Do you see it still sustaining?
Be honest, the fintech winter thing is a joke, right? I'll tell you why. If you look at the top 20 fintechs today in the world versus the top 20 banks, and this is research from my new book, it's not even close. Like the banks aren't even close to fintechs in terms of their market reach today. Top 20 fintechs have about 4 billion customers. Top 20 banks, 2.7, 2.8 billion
Wow.
customers. Asset size, yes, but in terms of revenue growth and customer growth, the fintechs are beating on every metric. In the last 5 years, fintechs have grown 200%, the top 20 fintechs. The top 20 banks, 3%. Like, we are seeing in Asia the formation of the next generation of financial services infrastructure. And to be frank, it doesn't involve the banks.
So I was going to ask you for a teaser from your new book, Brett. But
Sure.
I've just
Well, you
gotten
already
a
got
little
one,
bit.
but you
I
want
got
another
one.
teaser?
Sure, absolutely. We'd love that.
So here's my question to you is, when do you think peak branch was? Because Branch Today Gone Tomorrow, the new book, out at the end of the year, is the first publication we know of to call peak branch. So when do you think peak branch was?
I'd say late 90s.
So if you're in the West, that's definitely the case. UK, Australia, New Zealand, all around 96. But the US, Canada were a little bit later. So today, if we look at the G20 and the Eurozone, which represent about 60% of the total real estate for branches globally, their decline was in 2015, where we started to see the decline.
Not too
And
long
we've
ago.
seen about a 15 to 18% decline in those countries. Of the G20 and the Eurozone, the only country of that grouping that still has slight increase in branches is India. Everywhere else is either flat or in decline.
Does that surprise you?
Well, I mean, it surprises me that India still has seen increase in branches, yes. It doesn't surprise me that globally branches are in decline. All of the fastest growing financial institutions in the world today are digital acquirers of customers. And so that is the core modality shift that we've already seen.
So you spoke about top 20 banks, top 20 fintechs. Where do you see banks sustaining their competitive advantage?
Well, then, of course, I'm a futurist, so I'm always looking for what's coming next. And the next big thing is going to be AI-based banking. So that's going to be personal AI agency. It's going to be smart contracts on the business and supply chain automation, cross-border side, all of that. And banks are in an excellent position as trusted partners to navigate that opportunity, except it's net new infrastructure. None of the existing core system infrastructure can run smart contracts. You need to integrate to these new platforms and new capabilities. So the opportunity is wide open. I think on the wholesale trade side, I think, yes, banks are going to carve out a really strong niche there for obvious reasons. But on the personal agency, AI agency side, I think it's going to be super wallets. I don't think and the banks will be involved, but as partners only in that ecosystem. I think already, if we look at next year, 2025, 55% of all retail commerce will go through mobile wallets.
Embedded finance. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is why I mentioned the super wallet concept, AI-based wallets, and it's more than our wallets of the future are going to be more than just money. It's going to retain our DNA, our medical information, our financial transactions and behavioral information that we want to trade as a data platform and so forth. But that's where all of the really interesting action is. And it's the behavioral piece tied with the money as a platform and the advisory element of AI, which is where embedded finance really comes into its own. Because what you want to do is you want to ask your personal AI money coach, is this the right financial decision for me? Can I afford to go out, with my friends to tribal tonight, to hang out, or should I save up for the weekend? How much do I need to save to get a deposit on a home? Given all of that information, when should I expect that to be? Your personal AI will answer those questions because it knows your financial behavior and financial health like no one else in your network.
I love that term, personal AI.
Yeah,
I'm going to borrow that. Right.
absolutely.
Let's talk here now. So we've got Money 2020 Asia happening in Bangkok. Let's talk. I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on Thailand specifically. How do you see fintech? How do you see the banks competing over here?
There's a
Bank
look,
of Thailand's,
yeah,
they're going to be issuing the new licenses.
right.
I'd love to get your views on traditional Main Street banks versus the challenger banks now.
I mean, you have one of the most successful real-time payments architectures here, based on prompt pay, QR code, and we have essentially 90% adoption from the adult population in Thailand. I think averaging about 550 transactions per year on the platform. Average transaction size, sort of 20-30 US dollars. So no one really, I mean, I just carry this. I don't carry plastic cards in Thailand. I don't need to, So this is how I do my transacting. And, I can get in a taxi, take a taxi, I don't have to worry about cash. I can just QR pay the driver. So, it really has changed the ecosystem. But it's interesting that this is a really good example of banks responding to pressure from Alipay in particular coming into the market and saying, if we try to do this on our own as individual brands, Alipay will win. The only way we can compete is if we come together and build this sort of wallet ecosystem on QR. So that's a good lesson for markets like the United States and Europe and so forth. If you're, as a bank, trying to build your own wallet to compete against these other wallet ecosystems or the challenges that are coming in, you will not succeed. The only way is competition with your banking partners.
Brett, would you say that the regulators played a tremendously positive role there as well?
In Thailand, for sure.
Yes.
Regulators very progressive, always has been. I've met with them numerous times. The fintech licensing, they're a little late on that here, but I do see, again, it's a fairly small market comparatively. But compared with Singapore and Hong Kong, certainly Thailand is a market with much potential there. I do think that it is a good ecosystem for this, particularly with prompt pay and those other technologies here. Plugging into that sort of thing, will be more easier. Yeah, and you've got True Mobile and some other players already building some quite compelling wallet architectures here.
So if this was, if this exchange is being looked at by people in the more mature developed markets in the West, what would, seeing all the action over here, what's the one really exciting development that you would want them to know of?
Look, I think my key message is, if you're listening from the US or in the UK or something like that, and you come out to Asia and you see what's happening here in Thailand, you see what's happening in China, in India, in Japan, in South Korea, the realization is the West is at least 10 years behind Asia right now when it comes to this type of real-time delivery of financial services, onboarding of customers in real time, and that ability, certainly for real-time payments architecture. 55% of all retail commerce transactions next year will be mobile wallets. And if we look just in 2 decades from now, in 2050, we expect 60 to 70% of global output will be from Asia. So this is the Asia century in terms of economic growth, and certainly foundationally in terms of what's happening in terms of money and banking. This is where the action is.
Right place, right time. Thanks for giving us a teaser from your book, Brett, and it's been fantastic speaking with you.
Awesome. Good to see you.